Cancelled.
Schweezy.
All right. I found this article on BuzzFeed, and I thought, hey, I should probably talk about it a little bit. But it tickled my fancy, so, as someone better than me once said.
Let's just jump into it.
And there we go. It's not our second take trying to get the sound drops to work. We can do sound drops with the iPad now too. I'm happy about that. The world of having a dedicated device for things as I put away something that doesn't need to be on the table. All right, let's
just jump into it.
Going to the movies used to be simple and spontaneous. Older adults share little but meaningful things that modern technology has made obsolete, and it's pretty poignant. I love it when they end it, and it's pretty poignant. I love it when they end it on shit like that. Blah, 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 though it's true that modern technology has made life easier in many ways, there's no denying the special experience that, having not so advanced gadgets and gizmos. So BuzzFeed asked Reddit, or it's probably Reddit or someone who knows Reddit, can get into. So we can probably just begin. All right, so going to the movies, we have some really nice theaters and amenities to nowadays, but younger folks don't know how simple and spontaneous it used to be. To find out what was playing at what times, we either had to read the newspaper, call the theater, or just show up to the theater. I remember, before the internet, my mom, and I think up until pretty recently, she just looked at movie times through like the newspaper or something like that. Luckily, like in the small town from, the movie theater is, at least has a website. Has it been updated? Not in looks, but they update the showtimes. And, honestly, do you need like a fancy graphic design just to see movie times? Like, no, this is a theater you cannot buy tickets like online at. So it's like, I just need to look at the times, so you just Google the theater and then go fucking full throttle.
Let's go full throttle.
So, but it never really seemed to be spontaneous. I guess I'm not from the spontaneous, like, look at it. I remember one time I went to like a theater and like I was already kind of late for the movie, like previews were starting and stuff like that. This guy's just in line, so, hey, what movies are good? I'm like, shut the fuck up. You didn't know what movie you're goddamn going to? Goddamn, it's 11 a.m. I'm trying to watch a movie on my day off. Shit like that. It did used to be pretty cool and spontaneous and stuff like that. I miss people not expecting you to be available all the time. I kind of feel bad for the younger folks because now that almost everyone has a smartphone, people expect you to be available at all times, whenever and wherever. This is something that is, definitely very true. Like, some people expect you to be available at all times. I'm going to be honest with you. You don't have to do this. Now, if you're working a job and this is like your dream career or whatever, obviously, like, and if that job expects you to have like, just like, hey, have your phone on you, we might call you, we may need you or something like that. I may need you, something like that. Sometimes, it's just, I think there's something with that understanding, a job that you're signing up for, if you're just working some jobs, if they're like calling you all the time or whatever, it's like you can ignore calls. Like I know some people, like, they work, I guess they have jobs where like people call out and then you could get called in. And, I'm not necessarily against that, but, the employer has to understand that like, hey, this is my day off. It does not mean that I am available, full time. If you had a problem with that, you should have planned better. People, like, I don't know, like, at retail jobs, like, they just have the fucking, they're just complete goddamn dumbasses. They're not realizing, like, oh, if someone asks for the day off and I deny it, and then I'm like, I can't believe they didn't show up. I'm so surprised. I'm like, yeah, they had goddamn plans, okay? Like, that's where they asked for the day off, unless it's like some, if you get paid for days off, I understand that, but like if you don't get paid for days off, like You don't have to show up. Like, what are they going to do? Not pay you? Like, they're already not going to pay you, you know? You're not being paid. And I do think it's actually could be a legal issue if, I do think it's legal if, like, your job requires you to be on call, then you need to be paid for that time too. So, unless you're salary, if you're hourly and they expect you to do that, they have to pay you to, like, you know, sit on your ass and, you know, have your phone ready and available. But yeah, no, if you don't have anything that actually does require you, like, yeah, set up those boundaries. Like, you know, if, you know, someone texts me, you know, it's something important, like, I try to get back to them quickly, but I'm going to get back to them on my own time. I think that's more important to me. You know, I'm going to get on my own time. You're like, you know, but, like, you know, if you're at work, I don't know, you know, there's a good balance to this. And I just think it's important to really understand, the balance of, you know, of everything and stuff like that. So just make sure that you set up some boundaries and, you know, like, if your boss decides to email you, you know, at 10 p.m., guess what? And you don't want to answer that call at 10 p.m., you don't have to answer it. If they text you like, hey, we're low on staff, can you come in? You can just ignore them, you know, just do that, you know. It's not always nice, but I think it's important for your own sanity. When I was 6 years old, I used to put my doll in my stroller and take them for a walk around the block by myself. Without an adult, this was in the 90s. Nowadays, kids can't go off on their own like that. Yeah, and I think for a very good reason. Or like that, I don't know. Like, sometimes you live in, like, a small enough neighborhood, community, et cetera, that, yeah, our kids can just walk out, or they live in the country or whatever. Like, they can just walk out willy-nilly and do whatever they want. And you just don't have to worry about it. But, yeah, our parents shouldn't have done that. That wasn't the best idea. Our parents, me and my friends would, like, I lived in a town, like, 1,000 people when I was younger. And so, like, I just remember, like, I would just, like, hey, I'm going to go out, you know, I'm going to go hang out with some friends. And then we go out and then you just go on these adventures and shit like that. Like, I don't know if kids can necessarily do that. Maybe in, like, a town of 1,000 people, but not everywhere. That's not a good idea everywhere. You know, like, on a dry day, you go adventure the sewers and stuff like that. You can't, I don't know. I don't think you're going to be able to do that nowadays. So, yeah. I thought this was going to be about, like, the doll and the stroller, because I had a thought where it's like, I feel like there's a lot of things that, like, what toys we play with as kids can affect a lot of our, you know, your adult life. Because I feel like there's a lot of women who are really just had, like, play with dolls, you know, and Barbies and stuff, like, shoved down their throat, and, like, I think it affected their adult personality. Whereas, you know, like, it's more of, like, a girl thing where it's the problem where, like, boys were like, play with lightsabers, Legos and stuff like that, and then you find out when we're adults, like, we like to do that too, you know. So I do think there is something to, like, what toys you have your kids play with really can affect how they grow up. That's why some women are fucking boring. You're like, I really need to start a family. I need to start a family because, like, they've been, like, raised their whole life to, like, you know, start practicing motherhood when you're, like, a year old and shit like that. So, I don't know. Pros and cons of that. Just let kids enjoy whatever toy they want to play with. Flip phones were so satisfying to slam shut after a particularly frustrating and infuriating phone call. The snap of metal against metal was delicious and cathartic. Oh, yeah, dude. There is something, yeah. I was like, I'm glad they didn't say flip phones, because flip phones really did kind of suck. But, like, some parts of it were pretty cool. Like, you know, when they folded, like, you didn't necessarily have to worry about cracking your screen all the time and stuff like that. You know, they're making smartphones that are foldable, but honestly, like, those have, like, this weird thing in this, you know, like, where the crease is. It always just affects it, and then, like, as a touchscreen device, it's just not that good. So, you know, I really do think, and this sounds like I'm an Apple shill, but, like, until Apple releases it, because like, Android products, they'll just release it once they know, like, hey, this new thing is coming out. We're just going to throw it on the phone. But Apple will do the same thing, but wait until they get it right, and then they do it. Because I remember when the thumbprint scanner thing first came out on, like, the iPhones, and I was expecting, like, no, this is going to be a kind of a pain in the ass. And no, it was very seamless, you know, for the most part. Minus if you have, like, water on your finger or whatever. Besides that, yeah, it's like a regular straight. But yeah, you don't get that satisfaction just fucking slamming the phone on people anymore. You're just, like, pressing a fucking button without dramatic effect. Yeah, the dramatic effect was awesome. Yeah. I remember, like, you know, now I'm substituting kids. It's like, I remember when I was their age, the phone I wanted was the Motorola Razor. That thing, I thought it was the coolest thing because they're at the age where it's like some kids have phones, some kids don't have phones, and it's kind of a weird thing. By the time I was in 8th grade, I think most kids had a flip phone for the most part. Some kids didn't, but I didn't pick on them for not having a phone or whatever. I mean, I always got like they used to have like penny phones where if you sign up for like a 2-year contract, you get a phone for like a penny or something like that. That's the phone I got. So I remember like the iPhone was like, or I guess Samsung. Well, no, I had the Samsung Galaxy S, the first one, and that was ass. And then I remember getting an iPhone. It was like the first time I had like a phone that was just a good quality phone. And it was like just a nice experience, Good camera, battery life's pretty good until like 2 years later and when it doesn't. And all, just so much stuff, Number 5, I kind of miss entertainment being more rare. You'd maybe see a movie or TV show once or twice, and that's what made it so fun to watch. Even with shows that had a specific time slot, you'd actually have to tune in instead of just getting to watch whatever, whenever. It made things seem more special, and I appreciated that. The thrill, like, I really do think, and I think streaming is figuring it out to get it this way. But there is something to like, oh, this show airs on Thursday nights. And so, when it's like a popular show and stuff like that, everyone, for the most part, like everyone's going to watch it that night. And then the next day you go to work or you go to school, you commute with your friends, you talk about it and stuff like that. There is fun to that. And that's why I really do like, Disney Plus, they did Ahsoka week by week. And then now they're doing Loki. And they started doing it, like Ahsoka was like 2 o'clock and then 8 p.m. Central Time. And so I think 7 p.m. Eastern and then, wherever your time frame is. But I think that's really cool. Like I can do all my stuff during the day because I like to just work hard then play hard. So I like work and then I come and then once I'm done, take an edible, watch some TV and, that's like, that's how you are relax and then doze off. And so I really do like that, and I think we're getting back there. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it works. I think the evening premieres are working, but like then again, like it's only really cool in the U.S. And then in California, still it's like 10 p.m. when it airs. So like, I don't know. That is weird, California. Why is it? Because like they kind of set everything up for either California or New York, or maybe it's an earlier time in that time. I don't know. Sometimes you can get games early if you have like an Australia digital account or whatever. Like, I know the Switch you can do that. Like, I know a lot of streamers, they'll, if like a new Switch game comes out, they have an Australian eShop account. And so they buy the game in Australia when it comes out early and move forward from there. So, yeah. I remember coming home from school and hearing my dad blasting music from halfway up the street. Those heavy and bulky stereos from back in the day were no joke. The sound quality was absolutely incredible, and often it would be used for communal listening. There was something so special about having to lug around a giant boombox.
Feel like a woman, a real woman.
I do think there is something special to like especially a physical musical medium. Boomboxes, cassettes and then CDs, and then now everyone just uses like a Bluetooth speaker now. Sound quality, like I think we still can get that today on like a Bluetooth speaker, the how giant it was and stuff like that, We have it and don't have it. It's different. I don't know. The boombox era is pretty cool, It's cool and stuff like that. What was it?
Cool stuff, slick stuff, neat stuff.
What's next here? Number 7. As someone who was bullied terribly in high school, I find that modern technology erased the knowing that it was over at the end of the day. When I left school, I left the bullies there too. Now with kids on their phones every second of the day, it never stopped. You don't get to leave the bullies at school. They follow you home and bombard you online. I don't think I would have survived high school if I couldn't get away from those kids. Yeah, but I mean, true, they could get you online, but, most apps allow you to block people, and then, like, the only way they can get back to you, really, if it's becoming a problem, is they have to create a whole ass new account and do that. And if someone's doing that, they probably want to fuck you, dude. If like when people are that mad, they probably want to fuck. If someone's bullying you that much, like that dude has gay thoughts, and then you have to. And that dude's like gay thoughts, and he has gay thoughts about you, and so he thinks like, well, maybe they won't know I'm gay if I just pick on the guy that I have a crush on. That'll work. But anyways, though, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty easy, but like, yeah, if you you don't know how to block people or whatever, yeah, yeah, it could be a little difficult, but yeah, or you could just not be on social media. But I guess as a kid, like everyone's on, like kids don't even use. Yeah, kids don't use Facebook, and I use Facebook because I love watching people overshare. Like it's not even like friends of mine; it's just people I ran into once in my life or something like that. Who just overshare on Facebook, and like I love like just seeing how this all plays out. It's like drama is fun when you're not involved with it. And that's the rule. Number 8. Cars used to be smaller and slower. It seemed like walking, cycling, and crossing the street was a lot safer back in the day, and you didn't have to be so vigilant. I guess I don't know. I can't agree with that. Maybe just, I think that's more of a perspective thing, probably. Unless you're talking, I don't know how old you are, so you could be pretty fucking old. But I don't know, even cars in my day, my parents were like, be careful when you cross the street, you're like, we don't want you to die. We'll get in trouble. So you're crossing the street every day when you're walking down the street. You bet I'm
coming up in May.
Paper maps. Don't get me wrong. I love GPS when I'm on the one driving, but I always did think it was so fun and whimsical as a passenger being able to follow the route on a paper map while on a road trip. You can still do that. Like they still make paper maps. It's just a waste of money and space. And if you have a phone, you can follow along too. Like it's not rocket science to figure that out. But yeah, no, I think when I started driving, it was MapQuest. Like you just printed out MapQuest directions, and I don't miss that at all. Like that, I'm fine with that. You have like 3 pages just to leave your driveway, and then it's weird stuff like that. You're like, yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't miss that. I like the digital. I'd rather if I couldn't use my phone, I would still like to have like an actual GPS to use, which I think my mom has one now. She got like a car with like Apple CarPlay, so I'm like, you don't need the GPS anymore. So I don't know if I should sell it or keep it. I want to get one of those, like you can get one of those Apple CarPlays that you just like suction cup to your car or whatever. That's one I need to get. All right, number 10. Grew up in Michigan, so we had snow days often. In the morning before school, I'd sit right by the TV, bundled up in blankets, waiting to see if school was closed. God, that feeling was the best. Nowadays, notices are sent through emails. I know there was like a whimsy about it as a kid, but, like, I don't know, it was a different feeling, but, like, if I was a kid nowadays, I'm like, yeah, I'd rather just get, like, an email. I'd rather just deal with the email. That's all I have to deal with for the most part. Like the email or the text is fine with me. But yeah, no, I remember like I'd have to wake up. So you had to wake up like 6 o'clock for school because some fucking reason we had to have school at the crack of dawn. I think, or you have to wait and look on the news and like just see if your school scrolling by and shit like that. So like, yeah, it was exciting then, but like, at the same time, if you know the night before you're going to cancel school, it's just nice to know. You're like, all right, I'm not going to attempt to wake up on time for anything like this, Going to Disneyland on a whim. Back then, you just show up whenever, go get to the ticket booth, buy your pass, and go in. Disneyland wasn't super cheap, but at least the prices weren't so expensive. It felt like you had to mortgage your house. There also used to be a lot more cast members and characters walking around, and they had a lot more freedom to be interactive. Now, there are all these different passes and tiers, and you have to book in advance. I guess this is one of my blind spots. I've only been to Disney World once, and it was like the summer before 9/11. And so, like, not a lot of memories as a kid dealing with, like, we traveled a lot on planes when I was a lot younger. I think it was probably cheaper for kids, maybe. It's probably what my parents did. I remember they gave us, like, pills to deal with like motion sickness or whatever, and we were just high, me and my brother. But yeah, no, I guess I don't know. Yeah, I'm friends with some Disney adults. How far Disney adults like they work at Disney World, and yeah, they talked about like the fast passes, I guess, or what. There's like some they digitize something, and it's like, and it's kind of not as fun because you don't get to keep. I don't know. There's some memories or whatever you get to keep with it and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the best way to get free tickets to Disney World, Disneyland, or whatever is apparently if you work on like any project that's associated with Disney, like so say maybe ABC Family, it's free for them now. Now I think Fox may be on there, FX. You know, if you work for like any just slightly owned by Disney company, like I guess they all the time they give you like a free day pass to like a Disney park or whatever, which I think is really cool and probably for a lot of people not worth it. Because a lot of people are just like, this is really how people like, you know, because you meet some people and, you know, I'm 50-50 on the Disney adult because it's like they enjoy doing it, let them do it, but then at the same time you kind of like don't want to hear about it. You know, it's like it's that weird situation. Like they're not hurting anyone, they can do it. You know, they're, you know,
I'm not gay no more. I am delivered.
But at the same time, you're like, this is what you look forward to, and I don't want to hear your little freakouts about like, I don't know, they shut down the Dumbo ride or some bullshit like that, dude. Like, shut the fuck up. I missed having proper storm days. Where I live, they don't even let kids stay home and not do schoolwork during extreme storm days. The school was closed, but my kids were directed to just switch to online learning like how it was during the pandemic. I ended up just emailing the school from my phone and telling them our internet went out so the kid and I could have a real storm day. Having those were some of my favorite memories growing up, and I wanted to share that with my kiddos and have them experience the same thing. Yeah, dude, snow days are the fucking best. Like, that's the real reason why I think winter, people don't like winter already, but I feel like that's the reason we keep winter around is for just like days off work, days off school, and stuff like that. My parents were teachers, so if, you know, the internet, if classes were like online like they are now, like back in my day, it was like an online class where you basically just taught yourself and you're like, everyone's cheating on these tests. Like I gotta say, if you go to college, take online classes because you can just find fucking Quizlet answers online and just fucking copy paste easy. Probably don't do that for like your real classes for your major. Like I didn't do it for music classes, but I did it for like physics and like health. I took a health class and shit like that, you know, online. And so those are pretty easy. So. So if I had a kid, they're like, all right, you gotta get on the internet. I'm gonna be like, our internet's down, whatever. I'm like, I'm not gonna I don't know how some parents did that during the pandemic. I'm like, look, I don't know what to do with my kid. You know, like, they're an asshole. I don't know what to do. You know, shit like that. Camping out to go to concert tickets was so much fun. So fun, it was almost ridiculous. We would call and order pizza from a payphone, and the pizza delivery people would drive around just waiting to be flagged down by one of the campers. Oh my gosh, yeah. So, yeah, waiting outside for shit. That was fun. I think, now with tickets being online, it's just kind of like you have to sit on your phone and hope the page doesn't crash by the time, like, you know, you can get to the concert or whatever, you know, to buy tickets. You know, it's not as fun as it used to be, but, you know, it could be, you know, I don't know, like, was that a cool thing? Like, what if they only sold tickets in person? I remember I went and bought a ticket in person at the box office, like, when everyone buys their ticket digitally, because I like to go to shows last minute, you know, I just show up, I'm like, hey, I want to buy the ticket. You're like, we take cash only. I'm like, God damn it. And then I had to go to the ATM, get cash. I'm like, all right, apparently an iPad would be too much for you. I'm like, well, an iPad and fucking a little card reader thing. Apparently that's going to be too complicated for your job at the box office. I know they didn't have any control over it. I know they didn't control that. They just, like, tell you what to do. You know, they're just telling you they're someone else's policy. But whoever's in charge of them, I'm like, you know, we could probably... iPads are pretty cheap. You can even use, like, if it's just for, like, card transactions, like, you can get an iPad pretty cheap, okay? Okay, don't be stingy, okay? You know, I was like,
Come on, Mark. Don't be stingy.
And after a quick edit, analog controls in cars were awesome. I think digital in cars can be done well, but it often isn't. When my car is in reverse, I can't change the radio station or touch the AC because the entire touchscreen shows the backup camera. That's so dumb. Yeah, I do think that is the problem with the touchscreen, especially like switching you, especially in just music related situations. Most of the time, I think you can still mute if you needed to mute or something like that. But other than that, yeah, not necessarily the most needed. Whatever thing, like, yeah, nice having manual controls because someone who works in audio, yeah, sometimes like the digital controls can freeze up on your computer or some bullshit where like analog something you could just turn the volume knob down and shit like that. So yeah, it does have its pros and cons, but just make sure, I just think companies should make sure that if they're going to release a digital version of something that used to be analog, it needs to be done, it needs to be like ready to go, not just early on, or whatever, kids, what they do these days. Gen Xer here. I remember when we had to dial 0 to get a phone operator on the line to help place collect calls. It used to be such a big deal back then. Yeah, I always you forget about it because I think we're now in a situation where like kids these days, like almost all of them grew up with a phone, with phones, like their parents had phones and smartphones and stuff like that, and especially in like cell phones for the most part. So the idea of payphones and landlines and stuff like that is just like bizarre, and you forget, like, you watch it like Seinfeld, like the show that takes place in the 90s mostly. You watch that show and you realize how many predicaments they get in that would never happen today because like cell phones exist. And you're like, oh yeah, you just text them or give them a call or whatever, But like back then, like you just just didn't have that. You just, you say, hey, let's meet here at this time, and if you don't show up, you're an asshole. So, who would be the best thing?
I identify as a fucking threat.
Not knowing what songs were playing was actually pretty fun. I was born in the 90s, but I still taped songs off the radio for a while. If I heard a song I absolutely loved, I'd wait for the DJ to say what it was and who sung it. When the DJ didn't, I'd wait days until they played it again. I'd tape the song, then play it for my older brother so that he could tell me what it was. Fun fact, one of the songs was Take On Me. I don't miss this shit at all, dude. I love knowing what songs I'm listening to, but I'm also kind of, I'm the...
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I actually meant to impress.
This is the type of guy you get.
But I'm actually the type of guy who I kind of study music, so I like knowing that shit and stuff like that, and then, learning other cool nonsense stuff about people as well, So I don't miss that shit at all. I do like streaming, but there was something about the iPod that was just a whole device. And this device, all it really did was play music. And it's just, nice to have that. Like, and I do still like it I do like them for the most part. You want to get off the internet. That's the best thing to do. Like have an iPod and stuff like that, because I still want to listen to music, but shit like that. And yeah. Checking your answering machine when you got home, it's just so unexpected because you didn't know whose call you missed or who it would be leaving you a message. Oh yeah, there was before for caller ID. I remember when my parents had it. They, instead of like getting the phone with it caller ID, I remember they got like a little box and it was white. So obviously it gets decolored with age, and so I guess they were able to connect that to the phone to know who was calling. And I remember when I learned they had that, and you're like, oh, I guess I can't prank call my own house again, Sucks to suck. Cities used to have a lot more open space and places weren't saturated with all these franchises and other big businesses. You could just pack up all your friends in a car and drive around, and you didn't have to worry about having to pay for anything to just hang out. Yeah, older you get, yeah. I remember, you're like, if you don't have, I remember talking with my dad, you're like, I hate living in small towns. I want to live in a city, as a kid. And you're like, well, if you don't have money, you can't do anything anywhere. I'm like, okay. Like why? Because we were discussing like why someone would want to go to college in a nice town. It's like, you're not living in the town. You're just going there for school. And I'm like, no, that's not how life is anymore, Dad. Like you live, a lot of people, you pretty much have to like live in the town you go to school. And that's why a lot of, like, you know, I've lived in college towns all my life. So, like, that's why I meet so many people who just go to school in town and stay with their parents and stuff like that. You know, it's just stuff like that because it's easy, you know. And that's, you know, because you have to live in the town. You're like, I don't want to live in a new town. So, you know, but yeah, no, things cost money, and that's makes it not things not fun. We got two more. I recently do miss the older days sometimes. You had more time to just sit and listen to those around you, especially to older folks. Nowadays, everything moves so fast. People have short attention spans, and it's all about how productive you can be and how much money you can make. It's a fast-paced world now, and sometimes it sucks. Yeah, I know. That is something I remember. I took whatever, like, my, like, writing composition class, not the music making one, but the, like, one everyone takes. Two, it was, like, taught by a philosophy teacher, and I think we just end up learning philosophy stuff the entire semester. Like, we actually read the Declaration of Independence, like Machiavelli's The Prince, and so, like, a lot of people was like, oh, that's very Machiavellian. Like, I'm like, oh, have you read The Prince by Machiavelli? And they're like, no. I'm like, I actually have, so I could, like, do that, and because everyone thinks I'm just a fucking idiot all the time, you know? Like, you forget I went to a real school, I went to a real college, you know? And shit like that, so, like, yeah, I remember talking about, like, it was more like, the more technology advances, it's, like, almost like the more work we have to do. It is kind of crazy, so I think it's good to understand that, like, yeah, just because technology advanced and stuff like that, and, you know, I'm not one to too much talk. I use an AI as an assistant for this show. And so, like, the more work you have to do, and so it's a very interesting concept. So I think there is an amount of work you need to do. I guess it's called quiet quitting now, but there is an amount of work that you are getting paid to do that's worth the value of the money you're getting paid to do. You know, and you should do that. And just because there is an advancement that makes your job easier doesn't mean you need to add on more shit you have to do. You know, just you have to find that balance in life. And finally, our last one. Lastly, one time a younger person asked me what we used to do back in the day before we had cell phones and video games. I just told them nothing. Sometimes we just sat and did nothing. And it's true, sometimes we would walk around together. Other times we would ride our bikes. We'd find rocks to sit on and talk. And sometimes we just wandered. Back then, it was okay to just be bored. I feel like now so many people expect to be entertained all the time. It seems like modern technology has literally changed the way we think. That is true, but I don't know. I guess I grew up where video games existed in my time. I think, when did the SNES? I think the NES came out before I was born, but the SNES, I think when I was born, I think that was the main console, or maybe the end of the NES, one of the two. And so, yeah, you play video games, but a lot of times your parents just wanted you out of the house, and so they just kicked you out of the house, and you're like, come back later. And, yeah, I think that was a good thing for me, you know? You have to go out and interact with people. I think there is something good, like, nowadays, like, I can easily just be a shut-in and not talk to anyone, but, you know, it is what it is, you know? Yeah, but, yeah, I mean, I think kids mostly have to do that. Like, they're not allowed to be on the iPad all day, for the most part, you know? So things have to be different. So, yeah, I guess, you know, they ended up... One last thing. I personally find it disheartening that teens these days will never be able to experience MySpace or 2010's Tumblr. What are some things you sometimes find yourself missing before technology took over? Let me know in the comments. Okay, I'm not going to leave a comment. I will say, what do I miss, for the most part, in regards to shit like that? Yeah, I do miss the communication difference. That's probably my main thing, where I hate flaky people, and so, like, back then, if you were flaky, we just called you an asshole. Nowadays, it's just like, you have to, like, hey, man, I'm sorry I can't be available for you, like, 24/7. I'm like, I'm not asking you to be, I'm just saying, like, if we made plans, I want you to stick to them. That's all I'm asking you to do. But anyways, though, everyone, tell me what you think about everything, you know? Life's what you make it, so let's make it rock. Thank you for watching this clip. Watch it again or watch something